I recently made a video on Pokemon that use weapons to fight in battle. I got many suggestions for Pokemon that I missed, so I've decided to make a part 2. First, let me recap the criteria I'll be using as to what I will be considering a weapon. It must be a removable element that's not part of a Pokemon's body that it uses in battle that's also not a held item. Pretty much anything that a Pokemon holds, rides, or throws is fair game, as long as that weapon appears in its official artwork or in-game sprite design. So weapons that are exclusive to a signature move do not count. With all that being said, let's look at some more Pokemon that use weapons to fight. First up, we have Hypno. Hypno uses a pendulum as a weapon. This is a case similar to Kadabra and Alakazam, where the item being used isn't a projectile or a melee weapon, but rather an enhancer of psychic abilities. Hypno uses this pendulum to put its opponents to sleep, which makes sense as it's known as the Hypnosis Pokemon, and learns the move Hypnosis, the Psychic-type status move that puts opponents to sleep. Some of its Pokédex entries say that it can do this in as little as 3 seconds. There's even an entry stating that Hypno once kidnapped a hypnotized child. Hypno's Ultra Sun Pokédex entry says that Komala is its main target in the Alola region, a Pokemon known to already be asleep at all times. Komala's Pokédex entries unfortunately don't mention anything about Hypno though. Next, let's look at Braixen and Delphox. These Pokemon use a flaming branch as weapons. Braixen is known to keep its branch in its tail until it needs it for battle, where the tip will then be ignited from the friction of its tail fur. Delphox keeps the flaming branch in its hand at all times, where it's used to help Delphox achieve a focused state, apparently so focused that it can see into the future. Delphox's flames also leave burn marks in the ground, something that people used for divination a long time ago. These branches essentially function as magic wands, which is very much in line with this evolutionary line's design. While Delphox is obviously based on a fox, it also resembles a witch, a supernatural being with magical powers. Delphox even has the ability Magician, and learns the move Mystical Fire, Magical Flame in Japanese, which was its signature move in X and Y before it became more widely distributed. Next, let's look at Floette. Yes, just Floette, not Flabebe or Florges. Floette is the only Pokemon in the evolutionary line that is described to use the flower as a weapon. Not only that, but Flabebe's flower is likely part of its body according to the Pokédex, which would not be a weapon by my criteria even if it was used for battle. Same thing with Florges, except this time its hands are empty and the flowers are on its head. Anyway, Floette's Ultra Sun Pokédex entry describes it to raise flowers and use them as weapons. The more gorgeous the blossom, the more power it contains. Floette also learns a lot of moves involving flowers, like Petal Dance, Petal Blizzard, Magical Leaf, and Razor Leaf, and it actually learns more Grass-type moves than Fairy-type moves, despite only being a mono Fairy type. For the next entry, I'm going to talk about both Oranguru and Passimian together, as even though they are not alternate forms or an evolutionary line, they are seen as counterparts to each other, since they are both primate-like Pokemon with the same base stat total, being version exclusives in every game they have been available. Starting off with Oranguru, we have yet another Psychic type that uses a handheld amplifier of its psychic power. Its Sword Pokédex entry states that the fan is made from leaves in its own fur, probably where it gets its purple coloring. With this fan, Oranguru gives instructions to other Pokemon, which can be seen in the use of its signature move Instruct, where it commands the target to use the last move it used again on the same turn. Passimian uses different kinds of fruit as weapons. These fruits are used as projectiles to be thrown, and apparently, the Passimian in a group that can throw a fruit the farthest is the boss. Passimian takes so much pride in its throwing ability that it won't obey a trainer who throws Pokeballs without skill. The fruit shown in its official artwork and in-game sprite designs are most likely green coconuts, something that seems pretty painful to get hit by. In the last video, I mentioned Rotom possessing various appliances to essentially use as weapons. With Dhelmise, we have another ghost type that possesses an inanimate object, which is dead seaweed merging with the debris from a sunken ship. Due to it merging with the anchor, it gains the Steelworker ability, an ability that essentially gives Dhelmise Steel-type stab. It also has a signature move, Anchor Shot, a physical Steel-type move that traps the target in battle. Dhelmise also has an interesting interaction with Skrelp, the water poison-type Pokemon that resembles rotten kelp. Since Skrelp is apparently a bad swimmer, it likes to cling to seaweed for both safety and for food. It is able to blend in quite well, keeping it safe from harm. It's implied that Skrelp clings to Dhelmise's seaweed, and they get along quite well. Finally, a friendly interaction between two different Pokemon in the Pokédex. Next, we have Cramorant. Cramorant uses Arrokuda and Pikachu as weapons. Cramorant has two forms, Gulping and Gorging, which it enters into depending on its HP when using either the move Surf or Dive, due to its signature ability Gulp Missile. When its HP is above half, it will enter into its gulping form, where it has an Arrokuda in its mouth. When its HP is at half or below, it will enter into its gorging form, where it has a Pikachu in its mouth. Cramorant spits these Pokemon out as projectiles to deal damage, with Arrokuda also lowering defense, and Pikachu also paralyzing opponents with its electricity. This is a reference to cormorant fishing, a real-life practice of fishing using trained cormorant birds. These birds will have their throats tied off loosely with a string to prevent them from swallowing the fish they catch. Once caught, the bird will be brought back to the boat, and the fisherman will have it spit up the fish. Kind of a weird and borderline cruel process, to be honest, but it is still a neat reference. Next, we have Slowbro, but specifically Galarian Slowbro. Cantonian Slowbro is known to have a shelter latching onto its tail, but this doesn't really have any sort of effect on combat, as it doesn't tend to fight with its tail. Galarian Slowbro, on the literal other hand, has a shelter latching onto its arm. Due to shelter latching onto Slowbro's arm instead of its tail, it becomes a poison type after setting off a chemical reaction with the spices inside of Slowbro's body. If Slowbro squeezes the tongue of the shelter biting it, the shelter will launch a toxic liquid from the tip of its shell. This is evident in Galarian Slowbro's signature move, Shell Sidearm, a unique move that can be either physical or special, depending on which will do more damage. This move also has a different animation depending on whether it is physical or special, both of which Slowbro can be seen using Shelter as a weapon. Lastly, we have Floragato and Meowscarada. Floragato uses a yo-yo-like flower, and Meowscarada uses a bomb-like flower blossom. Scarlet's Pokédex entries describe Floragato as wielding the vine hidden beneath its long fur, slamming the hard flower bud against its opponents. In the Paldea Pokédex, we are even given a picture of Floragato in action using its yo-yo flower vine. Meowscarada hides the stem of its flower by camouflaging it with the fur of its cape, making it appear to be floating. With skillful misdirection, it rigs foes with pollen-packed flower bombs. It sets off the bombs before its foes realize what's going on. This is evident in the animation of its signature move, Flower Trick, a move that never misses and always crits. And those are some more Pokemon that use weapons. Now, I would still like to address some Pokemon that I'm intentionally excluding from the discussion, as many of you commented these following Pokemon. Ogerpon's Cudgel is a weapon, but it is only seen in the use of its signature move Ivy Cudgel, and I am not including weapons only seen in one move. Zacian's Sword is a weapon, but its crowned sword form can only be entered by giving it the Rusted Sword held item, and I am not including weapons that are exclusive to held items. Iron Valiant uses a blade, but it is detachable, meaning that it's part of its body, which I would not count as a weapon. It's also kind of an apples to oranges comparison at that point, since the future Paradox Pokemon are robots, or at least cyborgs, so of course they're going to have weapons as part of their bodies. Same reason I didn't include the Samurott evolutionary line, since their shells are detachable. But what do you think? Do you still feel that I missed any or disagree with any of my reasonings? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.